Greetings to all of our friends around the world with the World Federation of Youth Clubs, and welcome to this session of Standard Stewardship Concepts for Long-Term Growth as part of the Lead, Innovate, Collaborate Conference 2023. My name is Ron McHenry. I am the President and CEO for Boys and Girls Clubs of Skagit County, located in Mount Vernon, Washington, United States. We're about halfway between Vancouver, Canada, and Seattle, United States. Today, we're going to be talking about stewardship and as it relates beyond just donors. So as a part of that, the overview includes a review of the standard donor cycle with stewardship as a focus, easy value adds that you can do with stewardship, especially the ones that don't cost a lot of money, applying donor concepts beyond traditional fundraising. So we want to talk about how we can take what we do and apply that to different functions, agencies, governmental partners that might not be considered traditional fundraising. We'll talk about partner identification and mapping, message plans, some long-term considerations, and we'll close with the power of saying yes. So many people have probably seen the donor cycle with stewardship included. It's usually more of a loop, and I kind of look at it a little differently. You know, they typically set it up so you identify a donor, you qualify them, you cultivate them, you solicit them, and then you report back, and then you steward. I look at stewardship as something that has to be intermediate between each of those functions. So we identify a partner or a donor and we steward them. We get them to know us. We want them to understand that we appreciate what they're offering. We qualify to determine where they might fit in the resources that we're trying to acquire. Then we steward them again towards the cultivation and really kind of honing down in the area in which we want to engage further. Direct solicitation, a specific request. We steward them further, we report back, and then we invite them to maybe give us ideas of others that might be interested in the same or similar kinds of work. Some pretty basic stewardship value adds that we do are listed here. You can read through them. One of the things that we found in my organization to be extremely beneficial are simple thank you calls from various voices, not from staff. We've had our kids members will call, and they'll call for different reasons. One year we had our members call the spouses of board members to thank the spouse for all of the time that the board member provides to our organization. Some of the people that didn't get the call directly and got the message saved the messages and listen to it on a regular basis because they enjoyed it so much. Fundraisers and friend raisers can be an excellent way to celebrate your mission with existing donors while also giving them an opportunity to invite others to join and learn more without the pressure of being asked for money during their first engagement. It can be as simple as a barbecue. You offer food and time to come tour the program. The donor gets to invite their friends and family to see what they care about. Those same things can be applied to governmental agencies. Recognizing people is important. Sharing information on outcomes through a variety of means, social media, in written form, sometimes calling. We all know what drives our individual people. Sometimes they want the story and sometimes they want the numbers. A specific example of something that we do in my organization is a stewardship card. So we solicit thematic artwork from our various clubs, along with a photograph and biographical information of the child that matches the criteria of the upcoming delivery point. We print these in-house on simple cardstock and fold them. In any given situation, we might have anywhere from 6 to 12 unique cards. So it feels even more personal when they might see cards when they're visiting their friends or if they're visiting different businesses. Pre-printed messages are fine, but I'd really encourage you not to solely rely on them. For this specific example, we did have a pre-printed message, but we made sure to leave enough room where individuals could personalize a greeting to the donor or person that we're working to engage. That finishing touch can be amazing. The nice thing for this is our kids get an opportunity to feel like they're contributing to our mission and giving back. They have an opportunity to be recognized for the work that they're doing. And the people that we send them to, it's some of their most cherished items. We do about 1,800 every time we send them out, so it's quite a few. And we typically alternate between Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day each winter here in the United States. So it'll be, we love you for the Valentine's Day one, or we're so lucky that you're a part of our family for St. Patrick's Day. We do a back to school stewardship card in late August. And then we do a round in Thanksgiving. So this comes before an event called Giving Tuesday. Our organization does not go deep into Giving Tuesday because there's so many nonprofits seeking attention during that time frame. But we do want to make sure that our donors and partners are remembering the Boys and Girls Club and that we appreciate them. We found it really helpful because most other organizations send Christmas cards in the United States, and those kind of get lost in the noise. So ours typically arrive the second or third week of November, which is when Thanksgiving is here. So going beyond that traditional fundraising, traditional donor relationships are great, but they can be limited based on area and access. We all serve youth that come from various backgrounds. Often they're under-resourced backgrounds. And often that means their area is under-resourced. And so we're kind of in this struggle of how do we grow our mission and grow our reach in the communities that need us the most, that might not have the resources to make it happen. And so one has to be creative, and being innovative is key to that. As you're thinking about who you might engage beyond a traditional donor, asking questions regularly to identify where you might have alignment or there might be intersections between their industry and yours can be very helpful. Seeking sources not traditionally aligned with your sector is a big move. If all of the nonprofit organizations, community-based organizations, non-governmental organizations in your sector are all going to the same businesses, agencies, or partners, you can get, again, lost in the noise. So by differentiating yourself and finding those unique partners to be able to engage with can be extremely beneficial. Patience and long-term relationship building is important. It's quite key to all of this. And sometimes you don't know when that return on investment of time and energy will come. So there's a little bit of faith involved. I encourage everyone to develop and share their grand vision. We all work in the day-to-day of our jobs, but we also have an idea of where we want to see it in 10 years. And I've learned that our partners and donors appreciate knowing what we're doing now, but they also want to know what we have in mind for the future. And for many reasons, the grander we've cast that vision, the more responsive our community has been. And then for me, we message this in our organization at all levels, and that's being authentically you. So right now I'm presenting, I am in a much more calm and considerate voice, and that's not necessarily me. This is authentically me because I'm sharing what I'm passionate about. But in an audience where I know that person a little bit more, I tend to get a little bit charged up because I care about the youth and families that we serve so much. Again, a quick reminder of what that donor cycle with stewardship looks like, touching that stewardship point at each and every turn. When we look at partners, it's important to start with the data that you know, and everyone's at a different place in collecting information. At the very least, you know the names of your children that you serve. You probably know the names of their parents. You might know where the parents work or where most of the families engage in employment for the population that you serve. There can be connections to agencies or businesses that express support or have demonstrated engagement on youth issues. Looking for those patterns and intersectionality, especially those elements that others might see, can be incredibly beneficial. In talking with community leaders individually, for instance, do you hear themes in their comments? When you're speaking with the leader of your municipality and you're speaking with the leader of your school system, are they talking about similar challenges that they see? Are they talking about similar opportunities that they wish existed? And is there a point where you can help respond to those challenges or be a part of that opportunity solution? Guiding principles and boundaries are important to keep things focused. Are you willing to search for and to accept only funds? Are there supplies and equipment you can secure to lower your costs and allow the resources to be redistributed? Or are you looking specifically for new resources for your organization, like transportation, access, food, or more? So I want to take through a practical example of what my organization experienced, because it can be hard to imagine the first time that you're going through a process that's not the typical donor engagement. As part of our strategic plan at the time, it was determined we wanted to establish a club in the last city in our region without services. The local school district was running its own after-school program, and that community specifically in general was known in our area as wanting to do it their way. They're not part of a lot of the regional networks. So we simply started engaging in the community in various ways. We attended Chamber of Commerce meetings. We attended the various service clubs like Rotary or Kiwanis. Rotary is around the world, and so that can be a great starting point for conversations like this. We went to town halls with elected officials. We participated in city government. And so we were able to start collecting information so that we could identify how we could move forward the best way. It's important to take a moment and think about who the perceived decision makers are versus the real decision makers. And it's not always about title. Some people may think the leader of your municipality is going to be the person that ultimately makes the decision. Decently enough, that leader is relying on department heads to make the decision, and then they approve it. And so it's a matter of that department head making a case for whatever you're seeking or whatever that department head is seeking. And then the leader is going to consider that information. Ultimately, it's their approval, but often it's a signature. And so for this particular community, the city and school district worked together for the most part, but didn't intentionally align objectives or goals related to youth programs. This was an opportunity for us to bring various partners together just for discussions on youth needs. As a part of that process, we were able to qualify those who were influential, not just based on position, and build a core group aligned with our vision. I found that the assistants and secretaries and the people that you encounter at reception often hold a lot more power than one might expect because they control the scheduling. They're the gatekeepers to the decision makers. And so engaging them at the same level of respect that you do others can be incredibly important for that reason. We actually, Parks and Rec coordinator in the community ended up being our entry point. And an intersection developed where that city was wanting to make improvements to a park that happened to be near a school. And the larger of the two Rotary clubs in that community was looking for a major project. By bringing everyone together, we helped paint the picture of what a partnership could look like. During the summers, that school district program ended at 1 p.m. and it was held 3 blocks away from that park. So we offered the idea of what if we ran operations out of that park from 1 o'clock to 6 p.m., provide an afternoon snack, provide supper, provide programming during that. Again, to be held in the park where the city was looking to make improvements. To run out of a building that could use a good updating and remodel and expansion. It took time to differentiate between those casting the vision and actually responsible for implementation. The cultivation process was long. Asking questions can get you a lot of information. Listening to those themes, the similar ideas and values, and connecting those individuals organically, you start being seen as a convener and leader, and not just a participant waiting for something to happen. Demonstrated ability in communication, follow through, and provided context and education through those participating in the volunteer sessions and program. So you engage people to hear their input. There's a saying, if you ask for money, you're going to get advice. If you ask for advice, you're going to get money. Simply replace money with resource. As a part of that cultivation, we invited key constituents to participate in a teen development program as a short-term volunteer. And then we invited key constituents to participate in focus groups, working toward an updating of our strategic plan organizationally that led to an incorporation and focus of us being able to enter that particular community. We had the vision, we started bringing it all together, and then we realized it was time to be intentional and specific. We also realized that this was just about getting a foot in the door. It wasn't getting to our grand vision up front. It was about finding a pathway to demonstrate what we can provide to the community. So as things began to take shape, we looked to each partner and said, what if? The solicitation was easy. For the school district, would they coordinate transportation from their school program to the proposed summer club location? For the city, would they be willing to provide that space for free and prioritize the club for use of specific elements in the park, like a spray ground? Also, would the city be willing to have their administration building serve as a temporary backup location if weather or fire concerns would limit operations? For the service clubs, would they be willing to renovate and expand that building and provide some funding towards the summer operations? Each answer could be independent, but it was really going to take everyone being involved to make it happen. Stakeholders were provided end of session reports on all manners of data. We reported on numbers of snacks and suppers served, numbers of students participating, social emotional results, how the students tested in basic skills differently between the start and end of each summer. We've invested a lot in data and being able to collect that. And I understand not every organization has that ability, but there are definitely items that you're able to report out on, even if it's anecdotal. We went to each group, the school board, the city council, and the involved service clubs. After just 2 years of operating, the school district actually asked our organization to step in and take over one of those after-school programs because it had started encountering struggles. We said yes. Not long after, they asked to transition all of their after-school programs to us, all fully funded by them. We said yes. But each time they asked, we asked for something to enhance the programs. Transportation home after, to and from programs during the summer, food services, space, and other in-kind resources. It wasn't just about the money. It was about finding different values that we could provide to our members and their families. So to go through that, this is just an example of what I would do as I'm considering where I want to make an improvement. And this example, the improvement is nutrition advancement, not just providing the most basic food resources to our children, but being able to expand the nutritional content and the variety. So I'll list out who those potential partners might be. Local eateries, groceries, coffee shops, the food bank, local growers and farmers. We're in an agricultural community and we benefit from that, but we hadn't tapped into that resource yet. the potentials. What could we potentially be seeking as a resource from each of those bodies? Who the best contacts were, so I knew who I needed to be developing relationships with and who my staff needed to be developing relationships with. And then what is the first line of that engagement strategy? Often it's about asking them to do something that through that participation, they have a deeper understanding of your mission. When someone has an understanding of your mission, you're going to know whether there's an alignment. And if there's an alignment, it's really hard for someone to say no to a reasonable request. To support that mapping, messaging is key. There's a statistic about Coca-Cola and other national corporations and the marketing budgets that they spend versus how nonprofit organizations, non-governmental organizations spend money in marketing. And as one would expect, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all those big names, they spend quite a bit on marketing, and nonprofits typically don't. You don't have to spend a lot of time or money on marketing. You just need to put a little bit of thought into it. Keeping a cohesive message can increase confidence of your community in your organization. So you start looking at your mission, you think about the values of your organization, and then if you have a strategic plan, what is in that strategic plan? And as the leader, what do you anticipate being in the next strategic plan? You want to keep it consistent at all levels of your organization. You want to develop a vocabulary that includes that messaging. You keep it simple and focused, especially at the beginning. Use one concept as a hub for your messaging, and then build spokes out that make relative sense to what you're seeking. Can be used all the time in general and introductory elements, but should scale pretty easily. Ensure everyone associated, your staff, your volunteers, community advocates, understand the messaging and take ownership. We established our core messaging nearly 8 years ago. The focus evolves or changes depending on strategies or what we've completed, but the core is always there, and we built that down to one word: opportunity. We started with thinking about opportunity as a way to ensure youth have equitable access academically. As we resolved that, we moved opportunity as a concept to consider workforce development. And then it became opportunity for experiences that our member population generally doesn't have access to. Thinking about the long-term considerations in all of this, the messaging, how you engage people, how you map, are very important. It is not about what you're going to get up front. It's about what's going to happen over the course of time. Too often, because we are regularly dealing with what's in our face at the moment, making payroll, getting bills taken care of, we don't allow ourselves enough time to pause and think about what long-term gains or losses might occur. So just some reminders: treat everyone as if someday they will be the decision maker. In the United States, this becomes true over time. People that staff elected officials often staff them so that they can be mentored, so that they can see modeling of what it is like to be an elected official. And then they become an elected official and they move through pathways. Take your time and don't force the issue. Having a plan is great, but being nimble in that plan, being improvisational, can be very beneficial. Is what you're going to try and tackle an ongoing concern, not dependent on generational impacts? Great. But if it's tied to a single generational impact, how will you pivot that relationship upon completion? We just experienced a worldwide pandemic. That's a generational impact. At some point, we are going to move on beyond the response and recovery to the pandemic. So thinking about what that looks like 3 years and 5 years from now, if you have a partner that solely came because of the pandemic, how can you bridge that partner to your more traditional operations? And then if that resource ends, you do have to consider what that impact to your population will be and how you're going to message that loss. We love to say yes in our organization. It is one of the things we're most proud of. It is something that community members regularly speak to about why they have confidence in us. But we don't say yes to every opportunity. We don't make ourselves stretch just to get to yes. There needs to be meaning and intention behind it. We're honest about our limitations. I think that we often try to under-promise and over-deliver. We're willing to connect to different people or agencies. And that's important because we don't have to do everything, but we should have the knowledge of what's going to impact our youth. So when someone asks a question, if it's not something that we think that we would be best equipped to deliver, and we know of a resource that would be, we pivot that person and we get them the referral and the information that they need so that they can access that resource or improve that resource. Before you say no or decline in any way, really take some intentional time to think it through as it relates to your long-term strategy. You try to get to yes. Even if you don't, people are going to really appreciate that you tried. But with all of this comes a caveat. Be prepared to be asked more often. It's a good thing, but it can be overwhelming. Stewardship is about being responsive. At each step, you are responding to inputs, information, interactions, data, and your stewardship moment is about being responsive to those inputs. And this is not just related to donors. Think about those other groups, agencies, and governmental departments where these principles can be put into practice. Start small, one purposeful move at a time. Develop repetition, reflect on successes and challenges, and reimagine your strategy accordingly. Remember to identify those that can be of benefit, steward them, qualify them. How can they best be of benefit? You steward them, you engage them, you cultivate them, you start informing them about the area in which you're going to be then soliciting. You provide a very direct request. You steward them, and then you report back. And then you'll know when it happens, if they're super excited about those results, that's the best time to invite them to consider engaging and connecting you with others that might be equally passionate about the mission and to be able to help you identify that next series. This is my presentation for the conference, Lead, Innovate, Collaborate. Thank you for joining me. On the screen, you'll see my name, my email address, and the direct number to my office. I welcome calls at any time. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your sessions.